Hello. Well, how about a quick book review? I'm an Oxford qualified psychologist who teaches people how to learn more easily, and I'm also a speed reader. And this book is, for reasons that you're going to see later, one of the most important books that I'm going to read for this year. So I'm going to read it, and I'm actually going to record myself reading the entire thing. I'll then edit it down, but if anyone wants the entire transcript, if you've got nothing better to do with your life, you're welcome to ask. But let's see what it can teach us. So, can you actually see? Oh, yes, you can. Okay, sorry. Thank you. He's pandering to us and being grateful that we are here. Who knew that we lived 650,000 hours, apparently? Interesting. Sorry, it's discussing the Big Bang Theory and what's called the Goldilocks effect, the fact that we are, in our planet, we are not too cold, not too hot, and kind of like just the perfect situation for life to exist, which is kind of interesting. And here's Carl Sagan for Pluto. He's discussing the specifics of the solar system and how that works. Yep, boom. Ew. Huh. Never heard of Reverend Evans. Good grief. Basically talking about how we can observe the universe in different ways. Hello, la condamine. This is fascinating. It's talking about the principles about how things can be measured, and therefore how mathematics. Good, he mentioned South Africa, which was nice. And the Mason-Dixon line. Okay. Ha! Fascinating. Now he's going to go into geology because he's saying, well, how do we even work out, how do we measure time, basically? So he's talking about physical measurement now. He says that we're going to talk about time. Yeah, this is really an excellent book, because for those people who don't understand why we conclude the Earth to be the age it is, it's explaining it. And now it's going to be speaking about the fossil record, apparently. Yep. Merci, Beaufort. Good grief. Mastodon means nipple teeth. That's disturbingly interesting. Sorry, for those of you who don't know, Mastodon is a relative of the mammoth and modern elephants. Ha! Thank you, Royal Societies. Yay! Okay, I was waiting for it to get to dinosaurs. I just find dinosaurs super cool, so. And I was talking about Robert Boyle in Oxford in the 17th century and how vitally important understanding chemistry is. This is a fantastic book. Because it's discussing basically all of the different forms of science. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. And of course, this was predictable. It's moving into physics, the importance of physics, and understanding the basic principles, taking it basically that much further than Newton did. It's talking about Einstein more specifically, and people like Eddington and. Yep. Now talking about measuring and observing things, we're onto the Hubble telescope and different ways in which we can observe the universe and the atom. Ha! Thank you, CERN. Oh, my back is hurting now. Yeah, it's all because I'm filming it for you, so do please feel sorry for me, because ordinarily I'd be in a more comfortable position. Okay. Ah! Good Lord. He's now moving on to pollutants in food and carbofluorocarbons. Good grief. He's really taking in a hang of a lot of ground. That's amazing. Okay. Sheesh. Yeah, this stuff is... I should speak occasionally, sorry. It's difficult when it gets harder, like that last chapter was harder because quarks and how they tell us about the universe distantly away from us is a little bit harder. And now it is talking about the fact that the Earth is not actually static. It moves. And it's talking about how tectonic drift occurs and tectonic plates and so on. Yeah, back to geology. I suspect he really enjoys geology. Ah. And the atmosphere. Ha. Okay. Sheesh. Sorry, talking about natural disasters and especially volcanoes and how that speaks about the deadly stuff that is going on underneath and all of the magma, Mount St. Helens, impact of earthquakes. Oh, good Lord. Now I was going to talk about Yellowstone. He says, let's now talk about how okay. And I like Yellowstone, so here he's making the point that it's not just picturesque, it's very geologically fascinating, accounting for more thermal activity than any other geothermal activity than any place on Earth. Fantastic. Now let's get to the interesting stuff. Interesting. When it comes to the ocean, the first 150 meters is the most significant thing. And yeah, absolutely. Good grief, this is so interesting. It's talking about literally the differences in biology as we get deeper. And how different things function differently. But now we're talking about troposphere and how things are that different that suddenly we have weather systems and the conditions for life, which again have to be all Goldilocks perfect. Yoi! Sorry, it's talking about carbon dioxide, so for those of you who don't want to admit that it's an issue, sorry, another clever man who thinks that it is. There you go. He's even linking it. Good Lord. That's so clever. I do love the ocean. Okay. Okay, is basically talking about the development of life, how life occurred, the fact that more than 1,050 amino acids were necessary to do that, but the fact, of course, that there is a fundamental issue about how it even begun, although at the same time, fascinating. So for my biology friends, now he's getting into the functions of DNA, the mitochondria, and RNA, how the fact that we are able to code and reproduce is so necessary. Okay. Merci Louis Pasteur. Talking about microbes. The fact that life can occur on a very small level, and in fact, so much of our world consists of that. Ew, slime modules. How eukaryotic. Bacteria, archaea, and the eukaryotes. Okay, now I'm in a extra familiar realm for me because I just love biology, so this is that much quicker. I mean, the geology was also kind of easy. The physics was the hardest. The quarks were the issues. Oh, he's mentioning Cambridge. How vulgar. Actually, no, wait. I mean, they wanted me to. And I knew. No. I knew Dawkins would pop up at some stage, because, I mean, you can't cover evolution without discussing Richard Dawkins, who, of course, went to my college at Oxford, interestingly enough, New College. So, he's professor there. Hang on. Sure. Sorry, the fascinating fungi/algal properties of lichens and how that points to evolutionary factors and different atmospheric compositions throughout history. Very interesting. Okay, so if we went back to the dinosaurs' times, things would be different. Literally different. Yeah. Okay. Talking about the KT impact, that sort of boundary where they say that the dinosaurs died and there's a distinct mark between the two. I'm getting tired now. My favourite building in London, the Natural History Museum, and he's talking about the sheer collection. How vulgar. So if you've got the book, page 433, is interesting. Sorry, it's basically talking about reproductive functions and how you can kind of parallel between different organisms even though they look completely different. You know, who would think that we would have so much in common with, sure, 750 to 950,000 species of insects, because he's basically speaking about how life is so massively diverse. There we go, Kinsey. Oh my word, is he going to discuss this? No, he's not. Okay. I mean, he did very, very briefly. He just touched on the study of human sexuality, but barely at all. Yep. This is talking about cellular complexity, the functions of cells, and how they go from unicellular to multicellular organisms. Okay. Yep, thank you. And as people would know, this now is talking about the most important contribution, arguably, of the 19th century to science, was Darwin's idea of evolution. how genetic variability occurs, and it's talking about how Mendel's genetic studies basically can show and demonstrate a lot of that stuff. So it's very interesting. I'm wasting so much time telling you what's going on, but well, that's what Oprah would say. Okay, for those of you, page 492, if you want to see, Oprah speaks about how his daddy wanted to see what was under that skirt. Anyway, okay. There we go. And finally, DNA is decoded so that we start to understand how genetic hereditability really functions. We have a lot in common with lungfish. You know, that's basically to say that all organisms actually, we've got a more recent ancestor than we might like to think. So, you know, the whole furore about, oh, you're saying that we are apes. That's nothing. Okay. So, and now the Ice Age. How much things changed when things were so cold, and it is, look, I've been speed reading for so long that I'm able to do the two things at once, but explaining does slow it down, obviously. But how the change in the Earth's climate was totally necessary, or at least explanatory of things to come. There we go. Didn't realize Sumatra was so important in understanding our ancestors. Now, Australopithecus afarensis. Now we're getting to the Transvalensis and Homo erectus and all of that sort of stuff. We are now getting, and Leakey. So now we're getting to what Leakey discovered in the Olduvai Gorge. Basically, we are now talking about human evolution and how we diversified, not only physically, but he's now talking culturally. Which is exactly where he's going to transition now when he says about the restless ape. There we go. Interesting. Just been to Uzbekistan, so they're talking about Neanderthals in Uzbekistan, which is, but obviously the fundamental thing started really in Africa before we started to migrate, and then found Neanderthals. Not much longer, I don't think, because he's clearly wrapping up. The whole point here is how we became, as people, so interesting. The Ogilisele people. Gosh, how interesting. So 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago, they vanished. Yep. I'm quite sad this is going to be over soon, but on to another book. Okay, not much longer. Yep, there we go. And this marks page 100,000 for the year. This exact page. I counted it out and put the marker here before we'd even start. So December 2nd, 2025. There we go. Oh, love your Ridgebacks. Love your Ridgebacks. And that was book, was it 340? What? I wrote that down somewhere. Book 343 for the year, and page 100,000. Marveloso. Thank you, Bill Bryson. So, now, just to give the basic description, he explains really where we come from and almost takes an historical view of different sciences and how sciences have come to explain everything from how we are biologically formed, but also physically existent, how the universe formed, how the geology of our planet reveals all sorts of things about the fluxing nature of species, organisms, and literally terrain. And I think the description, short history of nearly everything, is a really good one, because he is attempting to explain so much stuff, literally everything from quarks to Australopithecus afarensis. He has done a really, really good job, and I'm thrilled. Paid 100,000 for the year, and I've still got a month to go of it. Anyway, if that was interesting, perhaps give a follow. Bye bye now.